All right, property photography mistakes. So here are some samples already there in the background. I'm going to go into detail a little bit later, but I'm not saying that mistakes is bad, but mistakes is something that we know where we need to improve, and that's the beauty of it. We cannot improve in areas where we think we know everything. So therefore, the only way to improve is actually find out what we don't know, and then we know, okay, this is the place where we have to work a little bit harder. Okay, so exposure is first. And just to get this out of the way, I wanted to share some samples. These images, yeah, would be great. You have seen maybe some of those on maybe like a magazine format or anywhere else, like where the ambient light is the primary light, like we see here from the lights next to the bed. And in some styles, maybe for like just maybe some kind of advertisement or something, that would be fine. And also maybe images this, yeah. So, but this would not be something that is mainly used for property photography, which is meant for property marketing. Yeah. So for estate agents, landlords, developers, Airbnb, Booking.com, and the majority of the clients, because shooting for like a magazine or for something else, you would probably do quite a small amount of work, but then of course the work would be probably higher paid, and then you would spend more time in there, and it's all going to be more custom. But when it comes down to property advertisement, we want to show everything equally lit. And if that would be just a bracketed, so I will explain what that means. If that is just one shot of many, then that's fine. But what does that mean, bracketing? Yeah, so bracketing means when we have multiple exposures from the same property. So therefore, if this is our final image and this is our only image of the room, then this is too dark. If it is just one of a series of images, then it is fine, but then we also need to have image for shadows and the darker areas. Like for example here, this would be enough for the exterior, but then we would need to have something for interior, and therefore we can blend them together. And what happens when we blend these three images together? This would be our final shot. So you see the difference in style. So this would be something that is used for property marketing, and this is something that is used maybe for just stylish images, yeah? But it would not be suitable for property marketing. People don't want to see dark rooms and dark areas. This would be, this actually would help to sell the property for new tenants or for a new homeowner. Okay, so angles is probably one of the most important things that we need to look at. Yes, we can say, look, equipment is very important, but we have to remember that the photographer is who actually is working with this equipment. So it is to do what angles the photographer will choose will determine whether it's good shot or not. And therefore, it is something that I always have to repeat. And it will be always the case that even I have experienced photographers, like with 20 years experience and 15 years experience, coming and saying, look, I would like to do property photography. And I say, could you do some samples? And they would always struggle with this because they are good with images, they're good with settings, but they don't know how to position the frame. And it is specific, as we've seen here, that the first image also was good for one purpose, but not for the general advertisement market that we are discussing now, as property photography mainly consists of property advertisement market, like estate agency work and developers and landlords, Booking.com and Airbnb websites. So this is the main clients that you're going to come across, and where is the quantity of work as well. Okay, so don't judge the property. It's not meant to be the best looking property. It is just, I could find some picture that was done at a very low angle, and in this case we were not looking at the property, we were looking at the angle. And here we can see we don't really see the kitchen service. First of all, of course, yes, there is too much stuff there, but second of all, we just don't see where is a sink, we don't see anything there. So how we would need to do the shot, the proper shot would be having the tripod higher than actually the worktop. Okay. The next one, again, is too low. And here again would be one shot which would be higher. Of course, remember these are just one shot of series of brackets. So therefore, don't judge this shot. It would not be the final shot. It would be one of series shots, and we would just merge them together, and you would see the final result after. But not to make it boring, showing 3 exposures of the same. So I just tried to touch bases on the angle itself, not on the exposures this time. Okay, here the angle, again, remember this would be one shot from series, and here it is done straight on, and straight on shots are good, but they are not priority. Yeah, let me see whether there is someone who is joining the meeting.
Yeah, Karina does, but she still want to work.
Okay, no problem. Okay, I cannot join them now because I think it is started already. But okay, I'm continuing with the presentation. I can share the link afterwards. Yeah, can you see the presentation now?
I do.
Okay, perfect. Let me just load it back. Okay, so what it is? So here, can you just mute yourself, please? So then we can unmute ourselves. So this is one of the straight-on angles as well, and this is similar done to this shot. But if you would have this angle at the angle, so this image shot at the angle, so we can see here also there is a shower space there, and then we have a bath, and the image looks much wider. And that is basically how most of the property photography is done, shooting from a corner to a corner, and we are focusing at the main 2 walls. So in this case, it's this wall, and here we have a little bit of the third wall. All right, if we have done those, we want to do more shots, we can always go shoot other angles as well, straight on shots, stylish shots, that's not a problem, but this would be something that always must have. We almost always have to have these ones. All right, and here I have done some samples. So what would be here the mistake is because it is moved too much on the left-hand side, and I do understand maybe if we want to show something there, but it wouldn't be necessary because we could still show what is there and still add the area on the right-hand side. So how would be a proper shot done for this room? It would be positioned as this. So the only thing is the camera is moved more right. So we still see the wardrobe, which is built-in wardrobe there, and we see the room, and we actually see this angle, this corner here. So basically from corner to corner, 2 main walls is there, and then if we can adjust towards one side or another side, it's fine. If we don't see any extra areas, then we just focus on the 2 main walls that are in front of us. All right? Okay, so now let's have a look at the other side. So on the other side now here, we have this wall as well, which is this extra space. I think somebody is stealing something. There's like alarms going on, but I hope they are not stealing my car. All right, so here, look at this. So this side of the wall, it is actually unnecessary because it doesn't show anything. And then the right shot would be, again, positioning this way if we don't want to show too much of the wardrobe. Yeah, so basically having centered in the middle. Okay, and if we, for example, here with this shot, if we want to show something on this wall, then we don't need to compromise in this shot of these 2 walls. We just need to take additional shot, which is actually showing from this corner, showing these 2 walls which are opposite. So basically with 2 shots, we can show one side of the room and now the other side of the room, and we're not compromising. So therefore we have seen everything. Of course, if we want, after this is done, there is no problem. You can go creative, do a lot of other shots, but this would be something if you don't have it, especially working with like estate agents who have seen multiple of images. They'll look at the image and they say, look, there is something not right. They will maybe not be able to say what exactly is all right because they're not photographers, they are not doing what it is, but they can come back to you and say, look, this property looks small, or smaller than some other photographers have photographed this property for other estate agents. Yeah, external images. So here we do an external image, so it's great. We leave some space here for the sky, and we leave some space here for the floor. But the thing is, if you see this corner is actually touching the end of the frame, we don't have space to straighten up the image, and we don't have space around it. So always center your building in the middle. So therefore, when we correct it, because remember in architecture, none of the buildings are falling down, so the vertical line should be straight, and that means that we have to straighten them. Let's have a look how it looks like when we straighten it. So when we have straightened that image, so we basically have tilted it, and in this case, we have to crop this area off, because here, if we were going to go lower, then we would have this white area appearing. So you see, that is the area that we would see. And in either case, we cannot have our frame further down towards the right hand side, and we don't have space around it. There may be situations where the building is very, very big and we don't have enough space to step back. Then yes, we just have what it is. But in this case, we have enough space to turn the camera towards the right hand side, because the left hand side still has enough room. Let's have a look at the next image. So this would be, you see a large building, we step back as far as we can, and we have space around here, space here, and also space here. And in this case, I will show you how it looks like when we straighten it and when we crop it. This is when we straighten the image. Okay, and this would be our frame marked in red, and that would be the final image, yeah? So that would be the difference between this and this. And this is what usually the clients would expect, and which from the architectural photography, from property photography, would be a nice shot, yeah? So that's something to keep in mind, to have enough space around it, because you always can leave more space around it, you always can crop it in. But the problem is, if you are too close, then there is not much you can do with it. And also some places, sometimes I have came across situations where the photographers actually do just like a literally front shot, like maybe the front doors and not the whole building itself. But we have to remember, we don't have to just take a picture of the entrance to the property. That also couldn't be, but we have to show the building itself. Because when you take a property, so when you do advertise a property, it plays a big part where the property is located, and the location is actually determining the cost of the apartment. And if, let's say, it's a new build, nice looking apartment, of course people will want to advertise that and sell it, and this will be a selling point. If, for example, the same, for example, flat is located in, for example, console block, that may not be the best selling point, but you know, at least then they will know what it is. Yeah, so always try to step back as far as you can and do the shots, leaving around space for post-processing after. Okay, toilet, common mistake. Can you guess what it is? There's the only
Open lids.
that's the only thing is there. Toilet lids, yeah. And I was just now speaking to one of the ladies from our team, and she was as well, you know. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, you know, the toilet seats, and she's like, I do understand why is that, yeah, especially when you're new in this and you're thinking about the settings and the angles and the positions and the heights and everything. So you're so concerned about all what's happening in camera, when you don't focus what you see there. But when the client receives the image, they don't know what your mind was busy with at the time when you were taking the pictures, but they see this and they say, look, but why the toilet is open? And it's just a small thing. We can look at this way, but it's definitely a revisit. It's definitely clients who are going to come, like, you have to go and revisit. Nobody likes when the toilet seats are open. So close it, simple as that. Not a big deal, but we have to remember. I remember when I was doing in school and training going to auto school to learn for driver license. I remember I was so nervous. I was like, oh, which gear do I pull? How do I put the clutch? You know, what do I do? Where do I indicate? Where do I show? Where do I look left or right? I was like so busy with all these things that I was barely able to even see what's happening on the road. And actually what happened is the instructor, he told me, you have to look in front of you, not just here where it's very close, but far down in front, and react to this, what's there in advance. I wasn't able to do that because simply I wasn't used to all the things that was around me in the car. So that's what it is, just getting used to the tripod, the flash, and the settings that we use. Then this would be already a common thing, and it will be very easy. Definitely, it's very easy, but there are things to learn before. Okay, so now you have to guess what is the topic and what are the changes. So I will show you two images. So this is one image, and this is the second image. So what has changed in this? One image and two image. Can anyone guess?
My best guess, the flash. No,
Exactly, you're an expert in this. You know, when I actually was looking at this shot,
I had a good teacher.
thank you. Yeah. And when I looked at this shot, I was actually saying, look, this is wrong. And why it is wrong? Because when I spoke to one of our booking team, and she's like, "You are like the, you know, how you call it, that Mr. Gadget who is going with this kind of magnifying glass and looking for all small details." And I said, "Look, that's not that I'm trying to be picky and find small details where to be picky at. But I'm just seeing that the person, whoever is doing these images, he don't really know what he's doing." And this image is great, so it's not a bad image. But if I see that the person is not really understanding what he is doing, that means when it will going to come to a point when he will need to use his knowledge, he will not be able to use it because simply he just don't know what he is doing. So, and this is just an accident that this image came out good. So what it is, purely this image is done by the exposure. Yeah, so it is open. So the shutter speed opens up, we let the light in, we close the shutter, and then we have the image. Perfect. It's nothing to do with the flash, because if we switch on the flash, it should light up the whole room, and the main source of light shouldn't be these lights, shouldn't be this light, and shouldn't be these lights. It should fill up with the flash. So, and therefore, I know that the flash is not filling the room, and therefore the main source of light is still the same ambient light. And therefore, if you come to a place where you have to light up with flash, you will not be able to do that because you will still compensate everything with a shutter. But shutter will not be the light source, because the flash is the light source. So therefore, what needs to be done? You need to increase the ISO settings. So therefore, you increase the sensitivity of the sensor. So even a small pop of the flash will be enough to light up the room. The second thing is you have to adjust the flash settings, and probably this is the weakest flash setting that is there. Most of the pictures that I do with flash, maybe at a full power or one half, or so basically half. Yeah. And then we can see here that the flash is correctly done. It is shot straight up. We see here it is shot straight up in the ceiling, because that's correct. And then it fills the whole room and it comes down, and basically then you have those shots that are done with flash. All right. So I hope this is useful. So if you have any questions about this, how to work with flash, write it down. I'll be able to explain later in the meeting. Okay, so here the guess was right. So it is flash, and this is the next topic. Okay, so this is when you don't shoot the images straight up in the ceiling and you don't fill up the whole room. This is when you actually point the flash straight into your subject. And you see, we have this ring around us and we have this shadow. So that wouldn't work for us in this case, unless we crop everything and unless we do a lot of editing, which is unnecessary. So the light comes from the ceiling down, as for example in the room where I am. So the light is at the ceiling, so therefore you bounce your flash on the ceiling, and then from the ceiling it comes down and fills the whole room. All right, and you do that pointing straight up. Okay, and the second thing is, now if you point up straight into the ceiling, it burns out the ceiling. So what's happening here? Okay, this means, first of all, if I look at the shadow here, it is not pointed straight up into the ceiling. It is pointed slightly leaned in the room. Otherwise, we would not see this. It would probably be somewhere behind us. And second of all, if we see this, we have to do what? We have to decrease the flash power and increase the ISO. That's one option. Or if we have the F number, maybe F22, it would just be the F number is basically the aperture, how wide is the lens, and the lens would be closed, so there's not much light coming in. So therefore open up, so don't go crazy f2.8, maybe f8, yeah, and let the light in. So therefore you will have less flash power, so therefore less burnout area, more light in the room, or adjust the ISO, and by adjusting the ISO also the sensor will be more sensitive to any adjustments to the light, and that's how you basically have nicely lit room without these burnout areas, yeah. So pointing up in the ceiling or straight into the frame. Point up in the ceiling and adjust the settings correctly. All right. Other things I wanted to touch bases. So remove the items that are in front of a camera. So of course it would be obvious to some, but not obvious to everyone. And sometimes there are large areas, large items. So for example, it's just like a massive, maybe like a flower in front of the camera. We have to shoot it at the angle. We shoot at the angle, but there's maybe a table with massive flower, and because it is so close to the lens, it looks like a massive bush. So we have to just move it. So you want to move it further down in the scene. That's fine if you're going to just become smaller, or just take it away, or anything else that is obstructing. And for example, if we are going in the bathrooms we always have these radiators on one side. So if I have my frame, I try not to be behind this radiator and see the radiator from behind, but in this case I cannot remove it, but I can try to avoid it, kind of tilting a little bit away from it, and maybe showing with the corner that there is this radiator if I want to show it, but it's not basically in front of my lens, you know, this massive big radiator, yeah. Second thing, open the blinds and curtains. Of course, we need to let as much light as we can in first of all, but the second of all, it is we have to actually show the window, and we have to show what's there if we can, if it's important, especially if it's like a premium location, because location will determine how expensive is the property. The same property can be in East London, and the same property can be in Central London, like the same finish, the same floor, everything the same, but it will be different prices because the location changes everything, yeah? So that's why you also need to open the blinds and the curtains. And there are many clients who actually try to book actually the photo shoots in the daytime because they want to have like a sunny day, and then they have a little bit of reflection of the sun in the apartment to kind of give this warm feeling. And if you have this blinds closed, then of course you will not have this, yeah. Third thing is, we were just speaking to Christine about this, is informing your client. So what do you have to do? First of all, you come to the property, let's say the landlord is your client, and you say, look, this is what I'm going to be doing. This is how long it's going to take. This is what you need to do, and this is what I'm going to be doing. And then everything is clear. So usually, like, people are scared of things that are uncertain. So, for example, the Brexit, for example, the coronavirus, yeah. But if you know the outcome, if you know what's happening, then there is no fear. And you know, especially when you go in somebody else's property, you are a stranger. And when you go to a room, you close the door, you're in their room, and now all of a sudden they're like, oh, what is strangers doing in my room? Are they taking something from my room, or what they are doing? You have to just let them know. I just go there and say, look, we're going to just go in the room. I will close the door, so I'm going to be behind the door just to have the widest angle. And in this case, if I see, even if a client is a little bit kind of worried, I can clarify this. And once they know what's happening, there's no questions. And also, even, look, understanding the point. If you come and meet the client, you can say, look, I have 2 hours allocated for this job, or whatever the time is there. Then they know what to expect, and then they will also know that, look, I don't have time to maybe have long conversations and drink the tea the whole day, but I need them to actually deliver some shots, because otherwise I'm just going to be speaking with this photographer for 2 hours and then they will leave. Yeah? So it's not to enforce something and just to say, look, I'm here, I'm doing the job and I'm out of here, but actually just respecting ourselves. You know, we have to respect ourselves. That's the main thing. And if we don't do that, nobody else will. And then you run overtime, and then you go home, and then you're too late, and then you're too tired, and then you're basically frustrated. To avoid that, just know what you're doing and explain to the client it's clear, no problem. And the most important thing is the shortlist. So what we do here in SpacePhoto, for all the team, we basically send an email, and an email says like what needs to be done. Yeah, and I myself, I don't tend to remember everything. I don't even try to keep things in my mind. I just basically, when I leave the property, I look at the email and say, look, okay, there was a front shot, I have it. They needed this amount of images, I have it, perfect, no problem. Oh, they needed the garden shot, or they didn't need the back of the house, perfect, no problem. So short list is something also, if you have your own clients, try to negotiate and discuss this shortlist before going to the property, not actually when you are at the property, because what happens then, you have talked about something, and they can say, I told you, and you can say, I didn't hear this, or maybe we didn't discuss this, or whatever, and there is a place for frustration or whatever. But if this has been agreed, then you can actually then come to the client and give them the images, and if they are unhappy, you can say, look, this is the shortlist, this is what I have delivered. Yeah, so this is beneficial. Not always we can, agree everything in advance, but if it is possible, it is very important, and it is also for yourself as a checklist afterwards when you finish the job. Have I delivered what I have been promising to my client? Yeah, so that's it. Perfect. Yeah, so if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Yeah.